Hey everyone, this is Ashley Ellenboss with Sky House Herb School and Apothecary. And today we're talking about nettles, one of my favorite longtime plants. It's like in the plant world, it's one of my BFFs. I always keep her close by. I wanted to give a throwback or show you guys a throwback to a video I recorded 2 years ago, back when I lived in Maryland. And it's so funny. I just watched the video again. It's just so funny to see the dark environment. I didn't have the same webcam. It was a much lesser quality, and I think it was summertime. I think it was the summer before we moved to Minnesota. So that was kind of fun. A little bit of a flash to the past, when I had long hair and yeah, different space around me. So the content is still amazing though. I listened to the whole thing and I was like, I mean, that's nettles. It's all the same content. So today you are going to go back in time with me to listen to a talk on nettles and all the many benefits of this plant. Now, the original title of this talk was Nettles as Mother Medicine, and that is still true. However, in the talk, it goes way beyond that. It talks all about nettles for allergies, my experiences, and a lot of research surrounding nettles and its use in clinical trials. So I hope you enjoy it. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Yeah, always fun to revisit the past. And while you're at it, if you want to check out more videos, I have playlists and a very extensive library full of talks and interviews, lots of fun things you can go back and listen to if you're looking for ways to fill your mind with herbal wisdom. So stay tuned and enjoy learning more about nettles. Hi everyone, this is Ashley Ellenboss with Sky House Herb School and Apothecary, and today we'll be exploring nettles. We'll be talking about nettles and some of its physiological traits, so what it does in the body, but we'll also be spending some time to look at the more emotional traits this plant has. That is, how does it nourish the emotional body? And so I really attribute it to being almost like a mother. It has a very mothering quality to it. So we'll explore both of those together today. I chose nettles for today's topic because it is the one plant that I've seen have the most dramatic results in clients, in students, and also in my own body and in the bodies of my family members, my two daughters, and also my husband. So this has been an herb that has a profound effect on just about everyone who takes it. I often talk about nettles as the gateway herb because in my herbal apprenticeships, it's the first herb that we use as a plant diet or a dieta, which is a way of really focusing on one plant and getting to know it through various different mediums. And so it's a gateway herb because, it really opens the door for a lot of people. I had a client who had never used any sort of herbs before, and he had some long-standing underlying issues. And after drinking an overnight nettles infusion for 2 weeks, he was like he was a game changer. And so he, is now pursuing his studies in herbal medicine. And, since this time has really blossomed in his study of herbal medicine. So it's a really great first herb to get started into. And in that same way, the idea of it being sort of the mother, it's a very encouraging herb. It really encourages you to try new things, and it's an easy one to take because the taste is quite grassy and green and quite pleasant for most people. So some of the things that I've seen this herb do with my students and clients is I've seen it clear up the skin. I've seen it really help people's complexions even out. I've seen it work with eczema and psoriasis and other skin conditions and really create dramatic healing and even clear long-standing eczema and having it never actually come back. And that was actually one of my own stories too, is I had eczema on my finger. My husband would call it my witchy finger because when I would get really stressed, I would get eczema on the outside of this finger. And I started taking nettles. I did an overnight infusion for 3 weeks, super strong and really committed. And after 3 weeks, it went away. It would come back every once in a while. And when I would start to feel that little bit of a tickle, I would drink I would start drinking it again, and it never came back fully. And that was probably about maybe 7 years ago. And it's never, I haven't had any eczema since that time. And I attribute it to my regular intake of nettles. I've also seen nettles improve energy levels in clients and students and in my own body. It's green energy, essentially. It's full of phytonutrients and chlorophyll. And so people have been able to come off of caffeine and other stimulants because of their ability to take in this nourishing infusion. I've seen it help people with weight loss and also just excess water weight, as it's a wonderful diuretic, and it also helps to curb the appetite since it's so full of nutrients. A lot of people find that they don't crave foods that they would often crave, and a lot of times cravings are just nutritional deficiencies. And so we're seeking out salty foods or sweet foods or sour foods because there's something that we're lacking. And so nettles can often fill in those nutritional gaps. I've seen it bring ritual back into people's lives. So the act of making and brewing an herbal tea or making an infused oil, but just sort of the daily rhythm of medicine making for yourself has really brought people back into a really harmonious inner rhythm with their bodies and a relationship with the environment. I've seen nettles clear up long-term health issues like rheumatoid arthritis, allergies, people with decades of allergies and seasonal allergies just gone after a few months of drinking nettles infusions. I've also seen it help balance blood sugar levels in people, and that is part of how it also can help with weight loss and cravings. And most importantly, I've seen nettles make people happy. So that's like the biggest gift that a plant can give you, is setting you back in your own center and in a happy place. So this herb, because of so many different attributes that it has, really does lift the spirits and set you back in a place where you can feel very strong. So let's talk a little bit about the herbal actions now. Like physiologically, what does this herb do? Well, it is an alterative, which means that it alters the body's metabolizing of waste. So it helps the body to excrete things through the kidneys, through the colon, through the lungs, through the skin. So it's a detoxifier. So that's a really great property that it has. And we know that when we let go of the old stuff, there's more space for new stuff. And often depression and heaviness and lethargy, a lot of that can come from not having not being able to clear things efficiently. So that's one of its wonderful actions. Another one is that it's a tonic. So we know that this herb, there was a study that was done in 1999 that took, I think it was 60 people, and they did an overnight herbal infusion of nettle leaf, and they drank 1 liter of it. And overnight was 8 hours for this group. And they found that after it was 12 days of taking this overnight nettle infusion, that their blood levels of vitamin B12 had significantly increased, and also their body was able to absorb iron and to hold iron more efficiently. So for people that are anemic, that's especially helpful. It does have trace amount of iron in it, but it actually doesn't, it's not that it just gives the body iron, but it helps the body to hold and to assimilate and to process iron. It's also high in calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, molybdenum, all of these trace minerals. So it has, it's really, really nutrient dense. I often think of it as a like a multivitamin. It's like an herbal multivitamin that you can drink. Also, this herb is diuretic, so for those people that carry a little excess water weight or who have high blood pressure, it can help reduce blood pressure by lowering the amount of water in the body. And there have been a number of studies that have shown that, in fact, yes, it is hypotensive, so it does lower blood pressure. This herb is also antioxidant, so it helps the body in the process of oxidation by slowing down the way that the body um, ages more or less, or oxidizes. That's the kind of scientific way of talking about aging. So it's sort of antioxidant, anti-aging for the cells in the body. It's anti-inflammatory, which is really wonderful because so many of our chronic diseases have an inflammatory component. And they found that nettles infusions have also helped to decrease the expression and the proliferation of, tumor necrosis factor alpha, which is a part of a lot of the inflammatory diseases in the body. They also found that it decreased inflammation of the bowel, which is very common in people with IBS, IBD, and Crohn's disease. It is antiviral. This is kind of interesting. Even though this was an in vitro study, they did find that nettles did contain a compound that would kill off HIV-1, HIV-2, and the influenza A. So, we can add that to the list of its many benefits. And it's anti-hyperglycemic. And in one clinical trial, they found a 33% reduction of blood glucose levels in when they took the tea internally. So these are all some of the actions that we can think about with this plant. But let's talk about the energetics a little bit, and let's talk about the idea of it being a plant that is mothering. So the energetics of nettles. Nettles are sometimes also called stinging nettles, also sometimes referred to as urtica, and it is in the Urticaceae family. So this plant energetically is hot and dry, hot and dry. And in astrology, it is associated with the planet Mars. It's a Martian-ruled plant. And we know that the planet Mars and all of its attributes are about hot, dry, and active. And so this is a very activating herb. It's not a great one for, it's not one you want to take right before bed, but it's a little bit more, has a more of an energizing quality to it. So for most people, they experience a warming and drying, not necessarily like it dries out your skin, but it just moves excess fluids out of your body. So if you do run hot and dry, this herb might not be the perfect match for you. You might do better with a different herb that I talk about in another video. But if you tend to run more on the cold side or boggy, sluggish, stagnant, the energetics work really, really well in that case for people that have those particular patterns. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of it being a mothering plant. So I was reading in a book called, I'll just show you, where is it? This one. It's called Weeds in the Heart. It can come into focus. There it is. Weeds in the Heart by Nathaniel Hughes and Fiona Owen. It's a beautiful book. And in this book, they talk about nettles as being an herb associated with mother's milk. And what they say is that it teaches our body how to assimilate, how to be satiated with real nutrition, how to receive nutrition and energy from food. And so they correlate this to how when a baby is first being fed, are they satiated, whether it's breast milk or whether it's formula, there's a lot of different ways we can feed babies, but really, however the mother was able to really nourish and satiate the baby in the early months, they note a number of studies in their book linking this to satiety levels and how children as adults feel satiated by food and by their relationships even, and how that relates to how they were satiated as an infant. And so in some ways, if we think about eating disorders and, even things like greed, where we're taking more than we actually need, that a lot of these patterns can be linked back to those early months when we were being fed. And how were we being fed, and was that bond and that connection between food and mother, how did that develop? And so nettles can be seen as an herb that can step in adulthood to maybe fill in some of those lacks, maybe to fill in some of those gaps where maybe we didn't feel like we got maybe enough milk, or we maybe felt like we didn't get the nutrition or the satisfaction from that milk or that formula, whatever it was that our bodies took in. So we can think about nettles as kind of reaching deeply into our systems and nourishing us at a very, very deep level. And I know for myself, when I drink a very, very dark green nettles infusion, there's something so satiating about it. It's like, I don't need anything else, you know, nothing else is necessary. And I think that that's what a lot of people are feeling, that they're feeling, you know, they're feeling maybe that they don't have what it is they need. And sometimes we don't even know what it is we need. It's like, I need something, but I'm not sure what. And if that's what is on your mind, or if that's kind of what's underlying some of the things that drive you, then you may want to try a nettles infusion. You may want to try taking this plant with all of its wonderful herbal actions, but also this herb as a first spring food. And that's how we can also associate it with this idea of mother and babies, is that this is one of the earliest spring greens that comes up in March, and it's full of nutrients, and it clears out the winter gunk, and it really brings the energy and the spirits, it really lifts the spirits up. And so, you know, that's what babies, you know, babies are, you know, they are spring in their very essence, you know, they're coming fresh into the world. And so nettles coming into the earth and coming into our environment during this very early spring time, you know, they're just, you know, almost asking to be drank and to be enjoyed and to be taken in. And when we receive this, all the vitamins and minerals that we get from nettles, there we can experience the sense of deep, deep satisfaction. So let's talk about how do we take nettles. My favorite way is an overnight herbal infusion. This is so easy to do and very inexpensive. You can buy your herbs from a number of different retailers. I really love getting my herbs from Oshala Farms in Oregon, and also from Zach Woods Herb Farm. So those are kind of smaller retailers that sell high quality organic herbs. Mountain Rose Herbs is a larger distributor that they sell nettles from, you know, places from all over the world, like Hungary and Budapest, and you know, sometimes you get your nettles and you're like, oh wow, that's an interesting location. You know, they grow right over here, so you can obviously always harvest them yourselves, and that's a really great way to get super fresh nettles. But these other three companies are other options. So you want to buy it in bulk. I would recommend starting off with a pound of nettles. It's going to be probably about this big. Let's say like this big, maybe by this tall. It's going to be a large bag. And you're going to take 1 cup of nettles. And if you're very sensitive constitutionally, or you tend to run a little hot and dry, maybe you start off with half a cup of nettles. But for most people, a full cup of nettles is a good amount. And you're going to place that into a quart jar. And this is a mason jar. Quart size is about this big. It's about the same size as a pasta jar. So if you don't have mason jars, you can just take an old can or an old jar that you had for pasta or pickles, which is about 15 ounces, and use that. And what you do is you just place the dried nettles in the bottom of the jar. You boil some water and pour that water right over the top of your nettles, and then you cap it. It's important to cap it because you don't want a lot of the oils to evaporate off. Then you let it sit on your countertop or in a windowsill for about 8+ hours. So this is what you want to, so the best time to do this is at night. So it becomes part of your nighttime ritual, is while you're brushing your teeth and washing your face, you're boiling your water. And then before you go upstairs or into your bedroom, then you mix it all together and cap it. And then in the morning when you wake up, the first thing you do after maybe your spiritual practices and maybe some yoga is you go then and you strain your herbs out. And you can just use a strainer and, you know, hold it over a mug, right? And then just, you know, strain it through, and then have that ready to drink throughout the day. So sometimes I'll even strain it into a second mason jar and then just sip on that throughout the day. So either way is fine. So that would be my number one recommendation, is an overnight infusion. And you do this every single day, and try to do it for a month. You know, do a month-long challenge and see if you can drink nettles every day, and just watch how your body will start to change. Another way to use nettles is as an infused oil. And it's recommended to do this with the fresh herbs, but I know that might not be possible for you. So you can use the dried herbs. And what you'll do is you'll just add it into a carrier oil. So I like to use jojoba. It's a really nice oil, but you can also use a thicker oil like olive oil can be really nice, especially if your skin does run dry and you run cold, because olive oil holds heat a little bit more. But if you have, if your skin is a little bit more sensitive or it already is very moist, then jojoba would work very well. And so you would just take, you'd fill a jar with your dried herbs or fresh herbs. If you use fresh nettles, let it wilt a little bit so some of the excess water comes out. And that way your oil doesn't mold. So just let them sit out for maybe like a day until they wilt and some of that water goes away. And then once your jar is filled with the dried nettles, you just pour your oil over top until it fills the top, and make sure that everything is completely covered with oil. Cap it, and then you can either let it sit in warm water, like do a warm water bath for 10 to 15 hours. You can stick it in a crock pot with water. That's another way to do a warm water bath. Or you can, if it's summertime, you can stick it in a paper bag and let it sit out in the sun. And the paper bag acts sort of like a greenhouse and will warm and cook the oil and help draw out the compounds into the oil. So the oil should turn a more rich kind of yellowish, brownish green color. And that's when you know that it's extracted out. And then you can just strain that through a mesh strainer to put that into another jar. And that can be used topically. You can just add it to your body care oiling practices. So after you get out of the shower is the best time. You would just put the oil all over your body. And it's very, very grounding, stimulating, and also very, very cleansing. So those are some ideas. And just massaging your body with oil is such a gift too. So, the act of just touching and mothering yourself in that way is really, really nice. So let me know what you think. Have you tried this before? What do you think of nettles? Was it a gateway herb for you as well? And please do share your comments and your experiences with me. I love to hear them. So thanks so much for watching. And if you're watching, if you're following live, then we will be hosting our summer herbal speaker series starting, we started actually last weekend. So we have our next herbal talk, which will be this Sunday, and that's going to be Saturday, August 8th will be our next free herbal speaker series. And we'll be having free classes throughout the entire month of August with guest teachers from all over the country, really fantastic talks. So please go to the website, skyhouseherbs.com, skyhouseherbs.com, and click on the events page, and you can register for all of those webinars. And if you subscribe to my newsletter list, then you'll be able to get a copy of all of them on my archives page. So please stay tuned for more talks and more information, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Have a good day. Bye.